Unix file system is also can be used. And they are using the traditional IP network configuration, so it's recommended to disable IPv6. Okay. Why Oracle? Actually, Oracle purchased the Java group. Okay, so right now the Java virtual machine Java group is under Oracle, so you need to check the version on the Oracle website. Okay, version the Java 7 is not yet the production level, so Java 6 is recommended. Like the Java 1.6 means it's a Java 6. Okay, 1.7 version 1.7 means the Java 7. Okay. So we are ready. So how can I install the Hadoop system? We can go to hadoop.apache.org. Okay, under Apache Foundation, this is the Hadoop project. You can download the latest one or old version of the Hadoop system. Then, when you download the file, it can be different type, different format of the installation. Like you can download the source file and compile and everything, or you can download the tarball. Tarball is archive file. You can just extract, or you can use the installation package used in the Linux system. You can use either yum or apt-get, something like that. Okay. However, if you have the difficulty to use such a thing, just go to the Cloudera. You can use the Cloudera distribution, including Apache CDH. Okay, that includes everything. You can just download. Even one of the I never used this one. Okay, for installation, I actually download the file and try to understand each and every package. However, I have seen my student who installed this one. So if you download the file and install this, actually you try to find best the computer along the network for master node and find the data node or whatever, and automatically install the basic package and shows the very nice window for Hadoop ecosystem. It's very, very straightforward, very easy. So why don't you try the CDH version? It also provides the RPM version. RPM is the kind of package version. So you can just install the RPM, you don't have to compile. You can just find the operating system name. Or you can download the source code and compile. It's not very difficult.
So
Yes.
the virtual machine that we have is CTH.
Yes. Right. So Cloudera
The same,
actually.
right? The same that
Yeah, same.
Cloudera.
Cloudera. Yeah, it's the same thing. They already installed that make the virtual image. Okay. When you start the virtual image, it's already installed and configured. You can first focus on the Hadoop system as well as the NetBridges. Then, right now, we are going to understand how to configure Hadoop system. So when you download I will hand out the administration virtual image, the next class. So that includes actually all the images, all the file of the Hadoop. Okay, but it's not configured yet. It's just a download. Okay, you need to configure. So we are going to start from the configuration. But for the developer version that you already use, it's already set up and running. Okay. So first we are going to install the header system. As we have discussed, there are three types of the header. One is a local job runner. It use HDFS? No, it use the local file system. It focus on the map reduced program. And pseudo distributed pseudo cluster is the same thing that you are using in the exercise lab. The fully distributed cluster will be the next the exercise lab.
The local is what?
Local job runner is the pretending, just
that's
pretending. It uses the local file system, not HDFS. Okay? For first local job runner, there's no daemon. We need only one Java virtual machine. It pretend, actually. It's not real. The HDFS header is a faker header. Okay? It doesn't use the HDFS. It uses the local file, running the sort at the local file system. It's good for just testing the first earlier version of MapReduce program. But I do not recommend this one in your classroom project. So you can start from the pseudo cluster. Pseudo cluster has use one machine, but it has everything inside. Okay, so naming node is a Java virtual machine. Another Java virtual machine for data node. Another Java virtual machine, secondary naming node. And another Java virtual machine for the task tracker and job tracker. Running on this is a Java virtual machine, and same for each there's a daemon program, daemon process, and also there's the HDFS. Okay.
Actually, the HDFS for that machines,
Yeah.
or it's going to be fake like the previous. I mean,
This is the
for
the architecture that you are currently using. Okay. In fully distributed the cluster system, you need to decide which server you are going to use for naming node, master node, and something like that. In the exercise lab, we will due to the limitation of our computer in the lab, I'm going to assign, the GA will assign 2 or 3%, I think the 2, because we have the 12, 13 students, probably okay. So we have 1, 2, 3 computer, 1, 2, 3, and this is for GA, and the screen and door, and we have the similar one. So this one will form one cluster, 3 computers. Then one of them will be master node, and the other 3, not the other 3, all 3 computers will act as data node. So one of the computers will be master node as well as data node. Okay? Then job tracker will be on this one. And task tracker running on all these 3.
Where's the client? The client.
Client can be any of these. Okay? So you can use the master node for client. Doesn't matter. This is the basic idea. Okay? However, if you want, you can try later. So if there's no student in the lab, you can try the little bit bigger size of the cluster, which means you can use all 24 computers. Okay? Oh, by the way, you will have the private network IP address. So they are actually in the same subnet, same switch, under the same switches, so they can ping each other. Okay, as long as you use the same subnet mask. Okay, so for example, the GA will assign the IP address, but for example, 10.0.0.1, 10.0.0 to 10.0.0.3. As long as they can ping each other, it's okay. That means if you want, after this exercise, if you want to build a little bit bigger size cluster, you can copy all the images, then set up one on the computer as a secondary naming node and secondary naming node and job tracker, and the others are clustered, the data node. Okay, if you want. Because all machines in the lab are connected, so you can use that. Actually, naming node and job tracker is recommended to separate them, but because we have limited, so we are going to use the same machine for job tracker and the naming node. However, in a small cluster, it is accepted the same. So let's start to install the machine. So you need to decide which version of the Hadoop you are going to use. You can use the CDH, or you can use the RPM or the Target downloaded from the Apache Hadoop website. Okay. But however, if you want to build a real production system, you can use the RPM version or package version is kind of precompiled for specific the hardware, the operating system. It is recommended. So, for example, if you decide to use the Cloudera CDH version, you can go to the archive, or you can use the YUM, okay, or the 8-get, and so on. You need to decide which operating system user you are going to use. If you build your own cluster system, it's not a good idea to use the super user, root user, or Hadoop cluster. Instead, you need to create a new user, like the Hadoop or whatever, then install the run this. And also, when you are using the super user, for example, in your virtual machine, you have not train. Okay? At the time, sometimes you need super user permission. Okay? So at that time, you don't have to change the login. Instead, you can use the sudo command. Sudo command is switch user to something. Sudo command is act as super user. Okay? So that means before you use the sudo command, you need to get the permission from the root user. There is a configuration that is already done in your header, the images. So you don't have to worry about. But in for yourself, if you want to install by yourself on your computer, you need to give the permission for the user that can run the sudo command. Then you can install the Hadoop specific version, or sometimes you can install only data or the task tracker. Or it's also a good idea to install entire package for each and every machine. Then configure specific. So for example, you install the entire Hadoop package, then for this node you can set up only data. And you can set up for task tracker, something like that. Who knows? Sometimes later, so you need to change the configuration. So also you need definitely Java 1.6, Java 6. Yes.
So we have to install
You don't have to
the
install
whole system, the whole Hadoop reach nodes, right? We have to install the whole Hadoop system.
I think I recommend that, but do not configure all of them. So for example,
Yeah.
you have the 20 node. So install the same package for entire node, then set up only naming node. Set up job tracker. set up data node. Okay, it's not big file. Okay, but who knows? Sometimes later. And if you install this one is data node only, but sometimes the version may be different later. So when you install or upgrade, so install everything. And also for user and group, this is another story you should know from the operating system. Operating system manage authentication, permission based on user and group. Okay? All the user in the same group has the same permission. Okay? So you better create the map users and HDF system, user and groups. First, if you install the target, which means it's the archive file, first you need to extract a file, such as the US local, okay, and you can edit the configuration file. So, installing the header system means what? First, two things. File system, install the file system and mount. Okay? Format, in other words. Like when you have the memory stick. So I'd like to use this one on my computer. You need to format this. Right? When you format, you can specify the file system type, NTFS or FAT32, whatever. It's the same thing. So after you install the file system, HDFS, you need to format.
What do you mean?
Okay? To use the HDFS. Okay? That is the installation actually. How to install? This download file knows how to format. That probably has the 64 megabyte big size of the data file, and they can communicate each other, whatever. Okay? That is HDFS. Another one is daemon process. When you start up the HDFS, okay, that means the daemon process will be created for specific node based on your configuration. This one is for naming node, this one is for job tracker, this one is for data node. Each node will start the process as configured in the configuration file. We will see that. So this is just recommendation, lawful recommendation. Data node and task node, they running on the same node, right? It's a data node. And naming node and job tracker, they don't have to be same node, but in small the cluster it can be one node. And secondary naming node is not recommended running on the same node, but in small, yes, you can do that. In our exercise lab, we will use the same node for all of this, even include this one, to pretend at least 3 nodes, at least 3 copies of the block. Okay. How to start? Header. There's a shell file, shell script. So this time we need to use the shell script. In Unix or Linux file system, extension does not mean specific file format. It's only for your understanding. Doesn't matter. Okay? But .sh means shell script. Inside this file, there's a command. There are commands to start probably the file, the process. Okay? So there are 2 scripts. It's a given script to start and stop the header system. That is starting process and terminating process. Okay? However, Cloudera does not use this script. Why? Any idea? If you install by yourself, probably you can start your Hadoop system using this shell. It will start the process. If you run start or the sh, it will start the processor for this one. Here is the naming node. Processor will be started. Job tracker will be started. And data node started. And the test tracker will be started. Data node, test tracker. However, Cloudera do not use such a mechanism.
Because there's no maybe security.
Yes, it's security. To run this one, you should have the permission
To access.
to access this SSH login permission without password, which is a big security hole. Okay? So you need to set up SSH and you need to set up SSH login without password to run this shell. Okay? So probably why don't you try later? So if you install by yourself, it is recommended to set up this one. SSH login without password. Yes.
But you need to configure the SSH to accept password.
Then at the time you need to type password
Yeah.
1,000 times. If you have 1,000,
Ah,
right? That makes sense.
yeah.
So this one is not used instead. So they require data node to allow password release SSH login, which is not actually accepted in most of the enterprise level production system. Okay, so when you are using the Cloudera CDH version, you don't have to set up the SSH login. Instead, probably you will start the process individually because it's just for your understanding. Okay, then at that time you can check whether your system is running correctly or not by running the simple program, like the upload the simple file, any file, to the HDFS. Okay, if that is okay, which means it's installed correctly. That doesn't mean it's configured, not yet. For the configuration, we need to do more job. So Cloudera provide the Cloudera Manager CM. That is kind of the portal site, okay, to install and manage entire cluster systems. Very, very convenient and very easy to use. Okay, so, but I strongly suggest that when you have a time, why don't you try to install by yourself by downloading tar file or some package file, not using the CM. Okay, CM is just very straightforward. Easily understand, but you probably cannot understand the architecture of the header. So this is the CM, screenshot of the CM. You can see it automatically recognize the computer connected, and so first insert the entire header packet through the network, then it will select, actually it will automatically, I do not have the screenshot for that, it will automatically select one of these computer, one of these nodes as a master. Then the others are data nodes, something like that. You can change it definitely. And also, you can insert the Hadoop component ecosystem by selecting. For example, HBase or the Uzi, Zookeeper, or the there's the From, School, you can select. Okay? If you don't want to use, you can stop.
So we install Cloudera Manager in the cloud.
As a client, they are connected, they are communicating through the HTTPS. Okay, so for example, this one, when you install the CM, it's a web interface, so you can select one of them as the CM, the Cloud Era Manager, then it will distribute the file through the network or the node. For example, this is screenshot is showing the distribution. Actually, CM is running on the disk 130. It's not one of these. And this one detect the 1, 2, 3, 4 node and distribute the packet and install configuration. However, free edition has the limited the number of nodes. That's something I cannot remember. But pretty much okay for the academia and for your testing. But in enterprise level, you need to purchase if you want to use more node. You can change the configuration anytime using this web interface. Then configuration. There are 3 configuration files in Hadoop. One is core site. Core site is the overall configuration of the Hadoop system. And HDFS dash site.xml is focusing on only HDFS. While map RED dash site.xml is focusing on map use configuration. There are 3 configuration files. All of them are XML format. Okay?
The code is focusing on.
So overall,
Oh.
yeah, overall the configuration of the Hadoop system. Okay, what was the details? And Hadoop, that's env.sh, which means it's a shell script running on your operating system. It shows some environment variable. What is environment variable? For example, even the Windows has the environment variable. So for example, computer,
Otherwise, system.
It's a
Otherwise,
bath, I think. It's a bath.
system,
the last
It's
one.
not the
Yeah.
bath.
Otherwise, the system settings.
No, that.
Yeah, it's already there.
The left.
The latter. Yeah, the last one. Yeah.
this one,
Yeah.
system.
It's the bath, right?
Oh yes, here.
You will see.
But you can see environment
It's the
variable.
bath.
So it has, for example, path. Path is well known, the environment variable, to find the executable file by following this path. Or, for example, the EMC on the autoplay, whatever, this is the environment variable used for system as well as application. So sometimes you need to know what is the environment variable for Hadoop system that is actually that can be retrieved by using this one.
For example, you need to add Python to PC. You have to add the variable environment Python to the bath, so you can use it in the shell.
Usually when you install the package for your compiler,
Yeah.
during the installation, it will automatically add such a path. So mostly you don't have to manually add such a thing, but in case.
Yes.
So that is some reason. Sometimes if you miss such a path or the environment variable, I installed the program, but I cannot run.
Yeah. It's
I cannot find it. So you need to at that time add manually. One of the popular such environment variable is the shared file location, the library, LD library, LD underbar library, and LD underbar shared library, or Java path.
Sometimes we can create variables, just in shell variables.
Yes, definitely. You can create your own environment variable. So this is the example of the configuration file. As you can see, it's the XML format. Okay. If you are not familiar with the XML format, XML is the loosely follow. You know the HTML. Okay.
Extended markup language.
Extendable markup language.
What is the origin of HTML? Is it
G.
for internet?
No,
No.
what does it do? It's,
Actually not. So I cannot remember who developed that one. Anyway, long time ago, probably 67 years ago, even before internet was developed. So long time ago, people, especially in government, the military government, they try to manage a lot of documents, like the book, printed book, because to look up the book takes a long time. So is there any way to organize such a document? So at that time, SGML was proposed. It is based on tag. Okay? So for example, head. So each book has a title. So what is the title? That is between slash and the title tag and slash title tag. You can put then.
Name.
So this
Title
is
name.
operating system. Then who is the author? And author. So later we can easily find such a data. Okay. However, SGML is very, very complicated. How many tags? It's too many tags. It's very hard to define. So, is there any way to minimize? And also, when the internet was developed, okay. By the way, what is the internet? The U.S. government, especially the military, they like to communicate each other. At that time, they developed something connected network. Then they need to design the protocol. What is the protocol?
TCP/IP.
It's the promise between you and me. When I say
rules.
I,
The rules.
okay, so you should know what is I. Okay, so when I'm sending 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 1, 0, first 3 is for the sequence number. The next 3 is forward. It's a promise between you and me. So when I'm sending this data, so he can understand. That is the protocol. At the time, they decide to use TCP/IP protocol. Okay, so we have the network. Then, why do we need this network? To transfer data, especially documents.
To control nuclear plants.
Then first, their idea is they try to share the document. So, but if we put the entire book, it's too much, and so it takes their bandwidth is not wide enough to send the entire book. Instead, why don't we send just data only, contents only, with the minimal format? At the time, they decide to adapt SGML, markup language. However, SGML is very, very complicated, hard to design format. So they select minimal number of the tag, H1, H2, P, and so on. Very minimal. That is called HTML. This is one of the standard first. Then hypertext markup language. Hyper means so there's a link. If we give the HIF tag,
Yeah.
so it can forward to another location. Okay, because they are connected. So this is the HTML. So one of the benefit of HTML is very simple. So as long as we have the browser, they can understand this. 1, 2, 3, 4. How many markup languages in HTML? 1.0. So less than 100. So several. I cannot remember the name. It's very limited, right? So using this markup the tab, we can display very nice document. It's a web document. The problem, what is the problem?
Security.
Not security. It's very limited.
Yeah, but
Okay. So many people, this is a nice way to manage the data, especially document data. However, it's not very flexible.
Yeah.
To address that, this is extended. From HTML, extended markup language. We can define even tag. So XML actually has the file that define this one. So in this configuration file, we adapt in Hadoop adapt such an XML format. So you can see some property, configuration property. This is a name of parameter value, configuration parameter. And this is the value of this one. You can have many property here. So for example, mRED.job.tracker is the looks like
library.
location of
Job.
job tracker. Okay, it's a local host or IP address.
And
Because Hadoop is based on TCP/IP protocol, then port number.
port.
That's it. That is a way of to decide this is a job tracker. For RED site.xml. Okay, this is a property name value. However, you can set up, configure the same parameter in different way. So one is in the site.xml in slave node, and even you can set up the same value in the client node, or even you can set up the same value, same parameter when you submit your job. Okay, which one is the most prioritized? Which one will be selected when you configure all of this? The job comp. Okay, then this one, then this one. So you can find this document when you install the CDH, it will be on the Hadoop. So you will you can see, browse through the HTTP, the web interface using this file. So who will see what kind of the parameter value? Not all of this, quickly go over. dfs.name.dir is a local file system on naming node where the metadata are stored. Okay. You can have the multiple location. You can command side. And block size 64 megabyte or 128 megabyte. You can set up over here. You should have the same size of the block size throughout the This is the file system location where the data node stored is blocked. Why? Even though HDFS is the file system, it's running on existing operating system, existing file system. You need to specify where the HDFS create the block. It can be many directory, should be comma separated. How can they use? It's a round robin tab, so you don't have to worry about it. They will equally use. So this is the address. You can use this address for user interface. So if you type this address, you can see through the web browser. This one is the how many replica of the block. Default is 3. So if you specify more than that, yes. When you have at least you should have the same or more number of data nodes. Okay. It doesn't create the same block in the same node. I think when you have a time, why don't you go over just read before you come to the exercise. I think for most of them you can understand easily. There are additional configuration file using the header. Okay, you can find such a configuration file /etc/header/conf. You can find such a file. So we already see the header env and the host name list of in case you need to SSH header policy. There is an access control policy, and when we use the logging, so we had to use the log4j. So this is the configuration file for that. And we will discuss after break. We will discuss about the scheduler. So you can set up a scheduler. Here. And also these are the Velo head environment. Okay, so these are the overview of the installation of the header. On Thursday, based on this one, we will try to insert and actually configure the header cluster. After 5-minute break, we will talk about the scheduler.